Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most underrated, underappreciated, and or hidden talents in bands. Number 20, Stuart Copeland, The Police. The name Stuart Copeland is one which is mentioned often within the circles of drum aficionados everywhere, and with good reason, as Copeland has long been considered to be one of the best ever to sit behind a kit. Indeed, it may be difficult to stand out from the rockstar icon which is Sting, but Copeland manages to achieve an equally impactful status, thanks to his hard-hitting physical style and incredibly energetic stage presence. The drummer has even branched out from rock music into the world of film score composition, lending his creative talents to such films as Highlander 2, The Quickening. Number 19, Krist Novoselic, Nirvana. The tallest member of Nirvana might be the most underestimated. Most people discuss Kurt Cobain's writing or Dave Grohl's drums, but rarely do they give this bassist his due. Krist Novoselic gives the band a thumping heartbeat through several intense tracks. Listen closely and you'll hear a musician that always knows when to stand out or blend in. On efforts like Blue, the bass player adds another layer of grunge to this song from Bleach. His work on deep tracks like Lounge Act also showcase his style, leading off a great piece from Nevermind. Novoselic is an essential part of the group's DNA, making the music even heavier. Number 18, Mike Mills, R.E.M. With their influential sound, R.E.M. became a staple of rock music in the 1980s and 1990s. Their output relied on 4 talented members to make it all happen. Mike Mills was their bassist, using his underrated bass parts to balance out Peter Buck's guitar. His playing and writing were an indispensable element of their work. Alongside singer Michael Stipe, Mills provided backing vocals to enrich the beautiful melodies. He even sang lead on tracks such as Near Wild Heaven, and often takes lead vocals on live performances of Don't Go Back to Rockville. As a multi-instrumentalist, the artist builds upon an impressive roster of bandmates. Number 17, Ray Manzarek, The Doors. At the beginning of the Doors' career, Ray Manzarek was a vital driving force for the band. He's also one of the pillars of the group's sound. Playing the organ on rock tunes, the instrumentalist made the music even more unique. Jim Morrison's words took them to a psychedelic space, while Manzarek grounded them with his keys. The band member gives tracks like Light My Fire their spark. As a keyboardist, he had many opportunities to shine with cool arrangements and legendary intros. His career is filled with his incredible performances from Hello I Love You to Backdoor Man. Number 16, Tony Banks, Genesis. As an influential progressive band, Genesis helped to push the genre forward in the 1970s. The group cultivated some of the finest musicians of the decade, including Tony Banks. The keyboardist brought a classical flair to their best work, including the epic Firth of Firth. When the group changed their style, Banks created some amazing synth parts in the 1980s. The track, The Brazilian, is one example of his versatility. Filling out the dynamic roster, this player makes the work of Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins even better. Through the years, he brought new ideas to an eclectic catalogue. Number 15, Christine McVie, Fleetwood Mac. While this singer was tremendously successful, she was also in a band with other spotlight-stealing legends. Some listeners forget that Christy McVie wrote quality music during Fleetwood Mac's most popular era. This includes both hits and underrated deep tracks. Her contributions to Rumours include everything from Don't Stop to the soulful ballad Songbird.
Yesterday's gone, yesterday's gone.
McVie's beautiful voice only adds to the fantastic collective. In a group with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, this artist made her own stamp on their music. Her songwriting provided the band with some of its finest work in the 70s and 80s. Number 14. Charlie Watts, The Rolling Stones. Throughout much of the band's history, the Rolling Stones had Charlie Watts backing them up. His drumming was always right for the song, never too audacious or distracting. Watts held each composition in the palms of his hands. This style gets overlooked by some, taken for granted in a sea of other drum techniques. Tracks like I Can't Get No Satisfaction or Sympathy for the Devil would be incomplete without his work.
So let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
He kept time through their most successful run, creating drum parts for many hits in the 60s and 70s. The Stones have kept touring after their drummer's death, but they'll never be able to replace his singular talent.
Just
Number 13. Michael Anthony, Van Halen. When you think of Van Halen, you probably imagine Eddie's guitar playing or the frontmen. There's one member that doesn't always get the credit he deserves though. Bassist Michael Anthony carries the songs with steady parts that let the guitarist run wild. While his playing might be more subtle, his backing vocals stand out on various classics. These provide the extra boost that turns songs like Panama into arena anthems. They also come in handy for the band's second era with Sammy Hagar. Anthony appeared in multiple eras of the group, later being swapped out for Wolfgang Van Halen in the 2000s. Number 12. Malcolm Young, AC/DC. Often overshadowed by his brother Angus, Malcolm Young was another key ingredient in the AC/DC formula. The Australian musician co-created a musical framework that sent shockwaves through speakers. Together, he and his brother used power chords to energize rock music in the 70s and 80s. Malcolm Young's rhythm and backing vocals were as important as his siblings' stage presence. During the Bon Scott era, the artist added strong work to hits like TNT and Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap.
Dirty deeds, done dirt cheap.
There's also his writing contributions to classic albums like Back in Black. He's yet another reason to rediscover this electric group's career. Number 11. Richard Wright, Pink Floyd. From the beginning of this band, Richard Wright was there. His keyboard skills brought another layer to their progressive sound. You can trace his artistry from the Syd Barrett days to the latter years with David Gilmour. Lending his talents to amazing albums, the musician also supplied songwriting credits to some of their greatest work, like Time. From The Dark Side of the Moon to The Wall, Wright was a constant among other musical giants like Roger Waters, Nick Mason and Gilmour. As a writer and a vocalist, the multi-talented artist did much more than sit behind a keyboard. Number 10. John Deacon, Queen. This epic quartet created some of the best rock anthems ever. They also feature a bass player that deserves more attention. Along with Roger Taylor, John Deacon isn't just a part of this stellar rhythm section. He further proves that each member of Queen is multi-talented. Deacon lays down some great bass parts, but he can also write. His work on Another One Bites the Dust might be the most recognisable, but it only scratches the surface. He only adds to the magnificence of his bandmates Freddie Mercury and Brian May. If you explore their catalogue, you'll see that this bassist earns his place among rock icons. Number 9. Kim Deal, Pixies. Bass players sometimes get a bad rap, often hanging in the back of the stage, holding down the rhythm and not getting super involved up front with the audience. Not so much with Kim Deal, former bassist of indie rock band Pixies, who not only enjoyed a rabid fan following, but also helped co-write some of the band's biggest hits and live favourites. Deal also stepped up within the Pixies on both co-lead and backing vocals, eschewing not only bass player stereotypes, but also strengthening the role of women in rock. Not bad for someone who didn't even own a bass when she joined the band. Number 8. John Entwistle, The Who. As yet another bassist on our list, and spoiler alert, there are more to come, John Entwistle attacked his chosen instrument with a dizzying ferocity throughout the 60s and 70s, earning fans and admirers along the way. Sure, it may be tough to stand out when you're sharing a band with hard rock heroes Pete Townsend, Roger Daltrey and Keith Moon, but Entwistle held his own, even branching out with his own group in later years, playing such high-profile shows as Woodstock 99. Songwriting and musical chops? John Entwistle was in no shortage of either one. Number 7. Geezer Butler, Black Sabbath. Terence Geezer Butler isn't your average bass player, approaching his instruments with the brash, confident sensibilities of a lead guitarist. This is exactly why the criminally underrated Butler's star shone so brightly during his tenure with the mammoth heavy metal gods Black Sabbath. The fact that Sabbath possessed a one-guitar lineup, that of band founder Tony Iommi, made it possible for Butler to spread his creative wings as both songwriter and bassist, often playing against Iommi's riffs with memorable melodies of his own. Add to this Butler's open mind for modern musical influences, and you have one seriously effective secret weapon. Number 6. Meg White, The White Stripes. A band is only as good as their drummer. This holds quite a bit of water when it comes to the case of Meg White and the White Stripes, as this musician's simplistic and regressive drum work is just what the doctor ordered when it comes to her band's straight-ahead brand of rock and roll.
A seven-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind my back.
Jack White's garage rock riffing and direct songwriting demands an equally direct approach to the drums, an approach which Meg was only too happy to provide. To be honest, it probably wouldn't sound quite right any other way, with Meg's style driving home White's songwriting and allowing it maximum impact. Number 5. Izzy Stradlin, Guns N' Roses.
Where do we go now? Where do we go?
If you were to look at a selection of Guns N' Roses classics from the band's back catalogue, it's highly likely that this secret weapon was responsible for some of the songwriting. Izzy Stradlin may not enjoy as big a rock star status as leadman Slash, but Stradlin's talent is without question, having penned or co-written the massive hits 14 Years and Patience.
I can't have you right now. I'll wait, dear.
The guitar player even took lead vocals on tracks like the memorable Dust and Bones, before embarking on a solo career of his own with Izzy Stradlin and the Juju Hounds, after parting ways with Guns.
Driving just to Texas 2 days. She ended up in
Number 4. Alex Lifeson, Rush. What do you do when you're in a power trio alongside drummer Neil Peart and bassist Geddy Lee? You speak softly and carry a big axe. It may seem strange that a guitar player with a pedigree the size of Alex Lifeson might be considered to be a secret weapon in a prog rock band. But for Lifeson, it's always been a careful balancing act between the guitarist's frenetic fretwork skills and humble, unassuming personality. Rush's muscular progressive rock relies on the sum of its parts, and it's Alex Lifeson's reliably impressive ratio in that equation which makes him the band's devastating secret weapon. Number 3. Cliff Burton, Metallica. Adding to the list of bassists who bucked stereotypes, the legacy of Metallica's Cliff Burton is one which has not been diminished, despite the metal legend's tragic death while on tour in Sweden in 1986. Burton was not a quiet bassist, preferring instead to amplify his sound with an approach which was both melodic and forward-thinking. One need only to look at Burton's work on such Metallica classics as Orion and For Whom the Bell Tolls to hear how this bass player moved outside the box to create some of the band's most memorable musical moments. Number 2. Ringo Starr, The Beatles. Sure, this Beatle has always been the brunt of good-natured jokes by the band's worldwide fanbase, but the work of this trailblazing drummer and songwriter speaks for itself when it comes to inhabiting a wildly varied creative headspace. Ringo Starr has not only written and recorded plenty of LPs on his own, but the former Beatles' approach to drumming while performing alongside John Lennon, Paul McCartney and George Harrison was forward-thinking and bold for the time, embodying a progressive spirit which helped craft numerous classics along the way. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. John Paul Jones, Led Zeppelin. What can we say about John Paul Jones? Standing just out of the limelight, Jones was a songwriter, keyboardist and bass player extraordinaire, anchoring Led Zeppelin during his tenure with the Hard Rockers. Jones didn't stop there, however, and continued to be creative long after Zeppelin called it a day, collaborating with artists as varied as Lenny Kravitz, Diamanda Galás and even Dave Grohl, with whom Jones formed the rock supergroup Them Crooked Vultures, remaining relevant for over 4 decades. That's what we call the sign of a true musical secret weapon. So, did we forget another underrated band member? Let us know in the comments below. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.